Happy Friday, everybody, and we are here for a new time, office hours, where I share all my thoughts and ideas of the week on the military transition, networking, LinkedIn, career transition, job searches, everything. So I'm going to discuss all the topics that are current and near and dear to my heart for you to help with your transition. Before I get started, I would like to thank the Super Bowl champion Philadelphia Eagles. That's my 1990 Randall Cunningham jersey for making it a happy year for me. The second Super Bowl in 8 years? Fantastic. Three times they've been to the Super Bowl. One was stolen. And I will keep that up there for as long as the Eagles are Super Bowl champions. So there's a shot we could have it up for another year. Thanks for joining us. And thank you to our sponsors today. I'd like to recognize our sponsors at Heritage Construction in Central Texas. What Heritage does is they do a lot of roofing and repair from weather-related events. And we've got some great roles with Heritage Construction where people are account managers, project managers. So you go to weather-impacted areas, you talk to the homeowners in your nice, kitted out truck, your uniform, everything, and you offer to inspect the damage, provide them a free, overview of it they can use to file themselves. And if they like you, you can file the report for them and manage the work getting constructed. It's an incredible opportunity for people in Central Texas. It's a family-owned company. We've had some great conversation with them. So check out Heritage Roofing and Construction. All right. So the topics of the week. I'm going to start off with something that's coming out on a post tomorrow. And it is about our senior enlisted community, right? I saw today a very senior E9 post that they were open to work and the jobs they were looking for were very junior admin roles. And while that is totally acceptable if they just only want to go do that, I don't know the whole backstory behind everything, but it is not anywhere near the equivalent role or what I would expect for someone that's been at that level. And so what I want to talk about is what the struggle is for the senior E8, E9 community going all the way up into the general officer admiral level ranks for the E9s. And what I'll say is that the difference is that you don't typically find a senior E9 with business acumen. And I'm going to tell you, an MBA does not give you business acumen. It gives you theory, knowledge, insight. It's better than nothing, but it doesn't teach you how to get to a contract. It doesn't teach you how to run a P&L, kind of. It doesn't teach you, how to make some of those resource-based decisions that we don't have to make in the military in many ways. And the thing about it is, for the E9 community, I think maybe one person I saw, one E9 that had a cooling off period. Most E9s do not have a cooling off period. If you didn't realize this, most generals and admirals have a 1 to 2 year or lifetime ban from being able to represent a company back to the military on something they worked or run. It doesn't do the same for the E9 community. Same thing for a lot of colonels. And so what I'll tell you is that E9s do not have a cooling off period in most cases. You can come back to units you used to run and help fix problems you couldn't fix when you're in. You get with the right consulting company. They have a lot of smart people that have come up with solutions that you were not able to fix in your previous role. Well, you come back in and talk to the person that replaced you or somebody else in the organization, say, hey, do you still have this problem? Yes. Cool. Well, we've got some really smart people that came up to a solution. Would you like to hear it? Most likely you're going to say, yes, Sergeant Major. And you're going to say, not Sergeant Major anymore. Call me Mike, but I'll make the introductions. And you just get those smart people in there with the solutions. That's business development done right. But you've got to understand how to get to that contract, right? You've got to understand all the steps, the financials, the business, the vehicles, everything. You've got to understand all the resource-based count, the POM, budgeting, everything else like that. If you're going to be able to leverage your senior enlisted, what's the word I'm looking for? Not your persona, your experience, your executive presence. If you want to be able to leverage your relationships, executive presence, leadership, everything else at the appropriate level in the private sector as an senior E8 or an E9, then you need business acumen. You need to be able to talk about revenue. You need to make business decisions, manage a P&L, stuff like that, get things to a contract. And so what I've been doing in every one of my, if I remember, just about every one of the general officer and admiral classes I teach, I've been asking them to please require their E9s to go to every finance budget, anything having to do with money, industry engagements, contract meetings that they go to. Require them there. Not only will it make you better leaders, it will set you up for success in your post-military career. And I was the sergeant major that ran from most of those meetings. I didn't understand them. And it took me the better part of 2 years of hard work to just get functional in it once I got out. And so that's why I want you all to start thinking about that now. And if you get a chance, go ahead and take that COR course, Contracting Officer Representative course. They have it through Defense Acquisition University and some other places. That'll give you a good foundation if you haven't done it already. So let's see what we got here. We got Jason Polite in the house. Thanks, Jason. How's it going? We've got Derek in the house. Good morning or afternoon. We got Michael Wiles. How's it going, Michael? And I don't know what this means. I think it's the team that got stomped in the NFC Championship game, maybe. But it should be HTTC. I don't know. And Stephanie, the cleared recruiter herself, has joined us today. Thanks, Stephanie, for popping. We know how busy you are, and we appreciate your support. So let's get into some of these other topics. So we talked about the E9 community. We've talked about resources and business acumen. You got to do it. And I'll even tell you, in the military, a lot of us focus on command roles, whether officers are enlisted. And what I'll tell you is that a lot of times those staff roles are more valuable in the private sector going out. So keep that in mind when you're thinking about what's next. Other topics of the day. Let's talk about LinkedIn headlines. And I had a great class yesterday with the 89th Airline Wing, Airlift Wing, over on Andrews, right? And so they had a great professional development session, and they asked me, how many different jobs in the headline is too much? And I said, more than one. And they just looked at me. I said, the way I explained it is, say, and I've done this before on these, say you're hiring a plumber, pipes broke over here, and you have 3 people come in and they tell you they're going to fix their pipe. One is like a handyman. He's like, yeah, I've done plumbing before. I do all kinds of things around the house. I do electrical. I do some, drywall. I do some maintenance. I'll fix your door opener, garage door opener. I do all that kind of stuff. And yeah, I'm sure I could do plumbing as well. Then you've got somebody that says, well, I'm a carpenter, but I also do plumbing. And then you have a general contractor that comes in and says, yeah, we kind of do all of that. And then you have somebody that comes and says, I'm a plumber. I've got the license credentials. I'm a part of the plumbing, whatever. I've got insurance for my plumbing jobs. And I have fixed those issues before. If the prices are all fairly similar, who are you going to pick? And we know the answer is the plumber. The person who's done that job, fixed those issues, has the insurance, certified everything, right? And so what happens is, the problem is when you say you want to go into operations, project management, logistics, training, or talent development, right? You end up being that general contractor that's maybe done a little bit of each of it, that only gets it if somebody knows you, really. No one's hiring you for a big problem if you've touched a whole bunch of different little things. We're hiring you to do this job. We're looking for the best candidate to do this job. And so my advice when it comes to your headline, and this is hard because you've got to choose, but I like to say you don't have to choose. You get to choose, right? And so what I'm going to tell you is that you've got to do informational interviews in these roles. I had somebody say that I'm a career counselor and I'm HR. And I'm like, no, you're not. Your job doesn't exist in the private sector. There really aren't that many career coaches and companies trying to retain employees. It is a function under the HR umbrella, but there aren't that many full-time people doing that job. And it doesn't make you qualified to do all of the other HR things that in most companies are way more important to them. And so what I'll tell you is that you've got to start doing the networking. You've got to start doing informational interviews to kind of narrow that aperture. And until you get to the point where you've talked to 5, 7, 10 people in a similar job field that you think sounds interesting to you, don't translate anything, right? Just make your headline what your current job title is. Make your about section from what your eval says. Make your jobs, the last 2, 3, 5 different jobs you had, untranslated, right? Put a good picture, a good background image up there and start reaching out to people. Because I'll tell you, if we can see that you're in the military right now, and we can see that you're not saying you're a CEO, you're not saying you're all these other random jobs, a program and project manager, you're not making up titles, right? You're just this, right? If we can see what we have in common, we can see that you're getting out in 6 months, a year, 18 months, whatever. It is a lot easier for us to take that call. Not much is worse than when I, who was in the Army for 24 years with 2 joint assignments, and have been working in the veteran space for the last 7 years, when I look at a resume and I can't tell if you were an E6 or an O6, I don't want to help you because I automatically assume it's going to be too much work. I can't tell what you did in the military. You've over homogenized everything. You made it so like just, and you put all this stuff that you tend, when you get out here and get really busy, you tend to start triaging your time. And that's what happens. I triage the time like, I don't have that kind of time to help that person. Whereas if I see that you were a first sergeant or a first shirt, right, then I know the level of experience you have at a minimum. I know you have these certain knowledge, skills, and experiences that come with that. And even though you may not have listed it on your resume, I'm like, you should talk to them. They have this experience and you can get to the call. So the hiring window is 2 to 3 months from the day you can start. So outside of that 3-4 month mark, I actually tell you not to translate stuff until you've spoke to probably about 10 people in that field. In that field, 10 people that have been where you want to go. I wouldn't translate anything. You're not worried about being found by recruiters either. Because if a recruiter finds you and reaches out and you're like, I can start in 4 months, 95 times out of 100, they're like, yeah, I can't touch you. Like, call me when you're 2 to 3 months out, right? And then they'll start a process all over. So just think about that. And since we have Stephanie on here, what I'll tell you is one of the recommendations she had was about putting your clearance in your headline. I'm a big fan. So if you have a secret or a top secret clearance, if you have an SCI, if you have a polygraph, you can put it in there. Please do not put special access programs on there. And what I'll usually tell people is you can write top secret SCI, CI poly, and then, or TS SCI, CI poly. And then in the about section, write top secret SCI, CI poly down at the bottom. So you kind of hit it twice and it'll be higher in the results. All right, let's see what we got here. We got Gene saying, yep, you had this conversations. Yep. Companies look for that one trick pony, but once you're in, you're expecting to broaden that scope. Yeah, so Gene, here's what I like to say. You have to meet the baseline qualifications to get to the interview. So recruiters are not going to send someone that's not qualified, right? So when you talk about your resume and your profile, you have to speak specifically to that role, to the point where when I talk about resume writing, like literally you should be taking the words right out of the job description to tailor, right? Like, what are the 5 must-haves? Put those 5 must-haves in the professional summary, like not their words, like when you've done it, say that you have it, make the title of the resume that job. Keywords could be those keywords. And then in the experience section, the bullets should be aligned with those must-haves, right? Make it nice and easy for them to see that you have that. We're not hiring generalists out here in most points. We're hiring high performers. But what I'll tell you is that the resume, the tailored resume, will get you to the interview, and then your culture fit, add motivation, and all the extra stuff will help you grow. Same thing when you get in the company. The only way you're going to get into a company when you don't have some of their must-haves, if there's a relationship and somebody says, "I know they are a high performer," and they make them do it. When I went to EY, I had the recruiters tell me I would have never made it through the system. Like, EY is all Ivy League grad degrees. I have a BS in liberal arts from an online school. They're like, you would have never made it through the recruiter screens. But I met partners and they told them to hire me, and they put me in a position to succeed so that I could exceed and meet the requirements of that role. But then they gave me the opportunity to do all the more, which is why they wanted me there. And it all came together nicely. So think about that when it comes to your headline. Don't translate until you've spoken to probably 10 people in that field and they help you, because bad translations are horrible. All right. 3 rules for outreach. And I actually just got a nice email from an airman, and I'm not going to put it up. In fact, I'm going to move that out. But it was like a 4 or 5 paragraph message, mostly written with AI, if not all AI, that was like flowery about my entire career. I'd like to hear about this. I'd like to hear about this. I'd like to hear about this. I think you sharing your story and experience will help me. And I was like, like, dude, I don't know you. I really don't want to get on a phone call, for an unstructured phone call about my career, to not know that it's going to have any impact or value on you. And an unedited AI message isn't going to help. And so what I'll tell people is a couple of things when it comes to rules for outreach. One, I have 3 rules, but I'm going to make it longer. One, keep it short when you reach out to a stranger. Fit it in the 300 character message limit. First names, highlight what you have in common or say something nice about them. Small ask, right? 2, if I'm not going to connect with you, I'm not going to get on a call with you. So I would start with, I'd love to join your professional network. It's a great way to like ping. You kind of want to breadcrumb people to the phone call. Do not lead with, "Here's my resume," ever. Like, ever, ever, ever. I wouldn't even send the resume to a recruiter because they want it in their applicant tracking system. I'd apply online with the resume and let them know you applied online and it's in the applicant tracking system. Do not ever leave with your resume. Would you ever walk up, say like we were in Whole Foods and you saw him and you're like, "Mike, I follow you on LinkedIn. Great." And I'm like, "Hey, how's it going?" You're like, "Hey, here's my resume. Could you let me know if you found a job for me?" Like, no, you would never do that, ever. And so, like, when we talk about outreach to people, like small asks, connect. You can maybe ask to get to a short phone call in a few weeks if they accept that. You can ask specific jobs, but I want you to really think about, number 3, think about what you're asking. Like, really think about it. If you send me a resume and say, "Hey, here's my resume. Can you let me know if you see anything that fits my skill set?" You are asking me to open up a document that was sent from a stranger. Not good, right? 2, you're asking me to read your resume to figure out what the heck you want to do. 3, you're asking me to go to our careers page or another careers page and look at jobs I think that you might fit, right? And then you're asking me to start pitching these opportunities back over to you, like, "Hey, what do you think about this job? What do you think about this job? What do you think about this job?" Like, not happening, dude. Think about what you're asking. Small asks, get to the phone call. Don't ask for a job on the phone call. Trust me, if we want your resume, we'll ask for it. If we've got a job in mind, we'll mention it to you. Focus on building relationships, small asks, and saying thank you early and often, because that's the other part. We forget to say thank you because we're used to intrusive leadership. All right. So, TSA PreCheck. That's another one that came up this week. So, and there's three financial things that I want to talk about today. The first one is TSA PreCheck. While you're in, you can travel using your DoD ID number, and it gives you automatic pre-check. You put your DoD ID number into the TSA system when you make your tickets, or it comes right over from Sado, Carlson Wagonlit, whatever, through your DTS. It's already in your profile, and you can just go right through pre-check as a service member. The day you're out, that stops working. The day you're out, trust me, like a week or 2 weeks after I got out, I went through and I tried to use my DoD number, and they're like, no, that's not a TSA pre-check number. It doesn't work. You're no longer authorized. And so what I tell everybody, you have to get some form of pre-check before you get out. Don't get stuck with me having to wait in the long lines just because I didn't know about this. And so if you're using the Amex Platinum card that you get for free, which they charge you once you get out, they'll do a free pre-check, or what is it, Global Entry. You could sign up for Global Entry, which includes pre-check, but I will tell you, before you're going to get out, if you're planning on traveling at all, just go get it. It's like $15 or $50 or something for like 5 years. And it makes a world of difference. But you got to do it before you get out, or you'll do it after you get out and then have to wait. So pre-check's a big one. Two other money things. And I'm not a financial advisor. I just want you to think about these things, or find somebody that's a financial advisor to help you. And no, I don't have any recommendations. The first is SBP. So Survivor Benefit Program versus life insurance versus everything. I went through, when you get out, you're going to be expected, when you go through your final out process, especially if you're retiring, you're going to be required to sign up for SBP, or have your spouse come in with and sign to say that they don't want it, right? And the way SBP works is it's like 6% of your retirement salary, and you get like 50% of if you pass, your spouse gets like 50% of your retirement for the rest of their life. It's a good program for some people. It wasn't for me. It wasn't enough money to even cover close to the mortgage on the house when he did the math on what we would have gotten. And I wanted to get life insurance. Now, I'll tell you, VGLI is not the best life insurance out there unless that's all you can get. The Veterans Group Life Insurance was created to make sure every veteran has the ability to get life insurance. If you have a lot of medical issues, you will not be insurable in the outside world. But I will tell you that I got a $3 million 20-year term life policy at the same cost as the SBP. And the SBP basically would have probably been like 15, 20 grand a year. Not a lot of money. And you can do both. There's nothing stopping that, but I didn't want to spend that kind of money. I didn't want to spend about $550 a month for this kind of stuff. So, I'll just tell you, just make an educated decision with people what's going to work for you, whether it's SBP or life insurance, or SBP and life insurance. And if you decide to do life insurance, I did mine about 8 months early, because everybody knows that you're going to go get all your stuff documented. You're going to get your disability, your CPAP, all the other stuff. And some of those things will make you uninsurable or will raise your rate. And so for me, doing it about 8 months early, before all my disability claims were in, before I went to all those final medical visits, made the life insurance much more priced appropriately for me. And it saved me a lot of money in the long run. So just something to keep in mind. And then the other financial piece of advice is that the other thing that you're going to be asked if you're a retiree is, when you go do your final out, whoever the GS civilian that's processing it for you is going to sit at some point. You're going to sit down and they're going to say, all right, how much taxes do you want out of your retirement check? How much taxes do you want taken out of your retirement check? I did not know that was coming. And so I asked the nice lady, what do other people say? What do you think? And she's like, well, this is the normal tax percentage. I would take this amount. And she focused totally on the right amount for my retirement check. And so we set it up. I got out November 1st, no impact on that year's taxes of 2017. I went through all of 2018 with my other full-time job where I got paid fairly well for. And at the end of the year, I got destroyed on my first full year tax bill because I'd been underpaying the amount. So with my other job, it took me to a much higher tax bracket. And so the amount I actually had to take out 7 or 8, I think like 800 more a month to kind of like cover the gap from my $800 more a month than what she told me to take out. And so I just tell you, I recommend everybody when you go to your final outs, talk to someone ahead of time, kind of anticipate what you think your salary range is going to be. You can go and see what the tax brackets are and the percentages you need to take out and all that other stuff, or get with a certified financial advisor, financial planner from someone you trust, and try to come up with the right numbers. But I'll tell you, I've so many retirees have gotten destroyed on their taxes. It's not a fun feeling. Just started thinking about that ahead of time. And then the last question as we start to wrap things up is I had breakfast, the Sergeant Major breakfast, E9 breakfast, not Sergeant Major breakfast, E9 breakfast last weekend. We do it on the first Saturday of every month at 9 a.m. at the Vienna Inn. And so I was talking to my buddy there, very senior Sergeant Major at the General Officer level. They're at the 3-star level now. And I said, what's next? He's like, well, there's 2 more panels coming up. I'll likely compete for those jobs. And I said, which ones were they? And he explained them. And I said, well, here's my question. Will those jobs make you more marketable? And he went, I said, what's up? He goes, no one's asked me that before. And so that's what I would encourage you to do if you're planning, is to think about, are you marketable now? And will it make you more marketable? For me, I could have stayed in another 7 years, 6 or 7 years, but I would have just been a more senior E9. I don't know that any of those jobs, would have made me more marketable than where I was coming out of I would have been retiring from Korea or somewhere else overseas, which would have been harder as well. And I would have been a geographic bachelor the whole time, which would have been hard. So, I tell you to just think about it. Most people that are getting out are only thinking about the first job. I want you to think about, like, what's your 5-year plan? Where do you want to be? What's your lifestyle going to be like? What do you want to make? What do you want to do 5 years from now? And so you can start to plan beyond that first step. So we've got a random LinkedIn user that says, "Fly, Eagles, fly." I appreciate you, LinkedIn user. And, for the rest of this year, they will still be the Super Bowl champion Philadelphia Eagles. And with that, everybody, thank you for joining us today. Thank you for, spending a part of your afternoon with me. Hopefully you got some value out of this. And we'll be back next week. Have a great weekend, everybody.